Good morning. My name is Lucinda Clark, and I am the founder of the Poetry Matters Project. For those of you who have tuned in, congratulations, first of all, because I know that some of you are working on some difficulties in terms of learning the process. But we want to welcome you, and we want to get today's program started. Who we have with us this morning, Pauline Finley, who is a poet from Brooklyn, New York. She has agreed to be our first test subject with regard to this programming. What she's going to do is she's going to share some of her work from her release, Mirror Images, and share some of the ideas that she has about poetry. Take it away, Pauline.
Hi, good morning. I am a poet from Brooklyn, born in Trinidad, West Indies, and migrated here when I was a little girl. Dream is always to become a poet, and I've been privileged to write a book called Mirror Images, which I'll read some selections from, and I will also read some of the selections from my new and upcoming book that Lucinda Clark will be putting out here for you guys to read, hopefully. And it is called Dysfunction, a play on words in the familiar, where I will be examining hypocrisies and behavior and social issues and the dark side that I think many of us possess. And so I'm hoping that you will really enjoy the selections. I'll also share my links with you once I'm actually finished, and that you will be able to follow me and give me your feedback and see how you feel about some of the things that I've read. And I will truly love any honest feedback and opinions that the audience would have. And so what I will do is start with some of my selections that you would be able to find here on YouTube and Google+. One of the first things that I'll start with is a poem called Proceed with Caution. He was clandestine in his meetings with her, and quixotic in the approach. Before the sweat could evaporate from his head and the diminished ejaculation consider re-erection, she was a faded memory, like the excitement of a carousel, good for a ride or two. His magnetic attraction to her exhumed itself in the carnality of phallic arousal as the image of him wiping his diffused remains of dying soldiers across her cheeks entered his mind. Beyond the bray of horses, heat-stricken gnats swirl 360 degrees above their heads in expeditious convictions without destination landings. The sun's scorching intensity pushes through wheat stalks as scarecrow's straw trickles beyond the lapel of his shirt. A kaleidoscope of emotions sweeps in all at once, and he sees her distorted reflection within the fragments of shard glass surrounded by bold colors. The realization revived her consciousness into understanding. She's jester for his entertainment, the pantomime of performance whose features he can't recall. A clown incarnate that conceals identity, fool's paradise. It shook her to the core, and the utopian daydream of happily ever after came crashing down. Violins, mandolins, and harps, sweet melodic composition became dismantled as she mutilated the nightingale in despair. Used. It ran through her mind like heroin through an addict's veins. Used. Like a doormat that soaks up muck under a boot after a rainstorm. Used to satiate his sexual hunger. Her perplexed, phantasmagorical, perceptive thoughts of him were becoming diabolical. Dreams of dancing candlelight shimmering off a blade seemed to twinkle like a star's chatoyant brilliance. Sadly, she was reborn from fallacious tales, moist, crumpled sheets, debased treatment, and self-serving, egotistical desires. Peace could not restore the balance of equilibrium in her mind, and logic and reason fled her body like OJ from a crime scene. A sphinx-like appearance started to reconfigure her frame. Vengeance was hers, not the Lord's. His omnipresence held no relevance. Hold the silence before the storm, children. This story's of a daydreamer's amplified white noise and a monger's prepubescent contemptible behavior. Halloween night, she wore the wimple of a nun and cloaked herself in garb alike. A gold-plated rosary swung from her neck. Tricks or treat, with a demure smile, she spun around like a samurai and thrusted a hatchet into his skull and plowed with cadence. The brevity of his life came to a catastrophic end, and his inebriated body became a celebrated delight for her octogenarian personality. She allotted him no time for a derogatory comment. No time for a meticulously designed plan to get her back into bed. However, she did allow him to understand pain. In a subdued Ponian fashion, she asked the others, had they had enough red wine to drink that flowed through his arteries, or membranes of flesh to eat? All onyx-colored eyes and maggot-laid lips raised their head in unison, like a choir's last note floating on air, gave a resounding yes, and smiled with satisfaction for a vendetta well executed and a victory won. Well, that was one of my selections from Mirror Images. One of the purposes for writing that selection is I think many people have been in very tumultuous relationships. And sometimes that's just my own way of finding a way to vent it out with words. And to describe different kinds of hurt, and sometimes hurt can break us apart. And of course, we hope never to veer to the violent side of it, but that's the way my imagery comes out with pen and paper. My second selection is called The Dead Inside, and I wrote this just simply as something that I wanted to get across, I think, to my own children as well, and as well as the different things that seem to be happening in today's society with the way violence is, and unfortunately the things, sometimes we see things a little distorted and become very disturbed by the things that we see. And so again, I have my pencil and paper and I tend to work it out in this particular manner. I hope you like the selection, and again, give me feedback, send in questions, ask me whatever you like, and we'll move from there. Zombie nation of backwater bucketheads. Caskets birth the new generation of live walking corpses, and mummies' mute tongues hang null and void toward vibrations of speech. Thin-shaven slivers of rotten flesh taste like the sweetness of nectar, as murder becomes the elixir for pleasure and invigorates the sexual appetite of man. Bombarded by bombastic bitterness, we are the dead inside. Sound the trumpets and beat the glockenspiel as we continue to dance on the graves of our ancestors. We turn the tides of time to make mockery of God's laws, spitting in Jesus's cup and washing his feet in feces-infested urine. The wretched pretend to be oblivious in their walk to reap destruction as a new legion of demons are being released, practicing demonic wickedness from the hands of our children. Schoolyard executions of the mind will extract the word love from our vocabulary as if it never existed, and parents' hopelessness will continue to flourish. As we try to balance on the tightrope of trepidation, worldwide tyranny reigns from all corners of the earth, and mischievous excavations of white-hooded robes that lay beneath centuries of dirt are being displayed upon our backs, re-enslaving ourselves in bondage, cuffing our limbs in shackles, and cursing our future. The sparrow. The sparrow stands at the side of a vacant, dusty road, belting out hymnal notes that evaporate in the air. As he draws his last breath, He too will be in the memory of no one. Fallen doves who are prey to vultures, scavengers who feast on lambs, butchered babies as brunch delights. The dead inside kills all signs of hope. They kill each other as well as themselves, and they killed the sparrow. The day has come to stand still. Don't drink the myrrh from the forest with gladness, but pray to your Savior for redemption. Moonlight enters the sky with the speed of a tortoise's stride, as the dusted twilight clouds my daughter's alertness like lullabies that sway children to sleep. I go into her room and I say to her, my child, don't ever jump off the edge of night. Hold your Bible in one hand and your faith in your heart. Don't look down upon the cracked skulls on which you'll stand disintegrating beneath the soles of your feet. Ignore the worms that slither between your toes looking to gnaw at your innocent flesh. Never inhale the scent of death that surrounds you, but walk with believers. Look up, because that day of Jubilee will run again like the River Jordan. Again, that's one of my selections from my book Mirror Images that you can find at McNally Jackson. I'm going to read a couple of selections from my new book called Dysfunction, a play of words on the familiar. Let's see what we have here. Again, don't be shy. Tell me what you honestly think. We are dying to hear what you believe, what you think. Do you think that the topics are relevant to today? Things that you feel that we can work on as a group. I would love to hear back from you. That'd be wonderful. I'm going to read a new selection called Living Her Life on Broken Wings. Sometimes what I can do is as I go out into the world, I listen, I look at my own behaviors. I choose to sometimes build poems from people's personalities, and this selection comes from me creating that. I hope you enjoy it. Caught in the macrame web she spun by internal decadence, leaves her to live her life on broken wings. The totality of carcasses strewn at her feet comes from sagacious deceptions, filling reels of pictorial film awaiting its panoramic debut. Dilapidated wrought iron gates slump in neglect as empty ropes swing from the gallows. Trees bend to the way of sorrowful winds convoluting impermanency. Effluvium impregnates the air. Excrement released from the bowels of ghouls and jackals leaves her in a high vertiginosus state, like the ash residue she snorts from crematoriums. Encompassed and guised in monk's cloth is a semblance motif she's ensconced in, retreating into self-imposed exile, corralling for pity, living her life on broken wings. Forlorn by choice parochialism, hoping to conceal the rancor imploding vehemently inside her belly, incrustations of coiled scales coats her tongue, regurgitated acidic lace breath restricts speech, adhering to quiescence. Lines of demarcations leads to extricating atonement from all that knew and loved her. But as Christ approached her fortress, her induced aversion toward his merciful beauty inflamed anger and purulent matter, stirring scabies beneath. Descending from her monstrous sight, he leaves her to the underworld. As she smells her lover nearing, she becomes physically inanimate. Gargantuan in stature, he stands before her, showing her lasciviousness. Passions arise, and he gives her the gift she seeks. dislodged from this life, like the arrows released from the bows of an archer's hand, ballerinas swan dance in singed tutus, expedients asphyxiated, voyage into perdition. This her resolve, as she lived her life on broken wings. Again, so that is Living Her Life on Broken Wings. Feel free at any time to tell me what your thoughts are. Again, this is all very new to us, and we're trying something new, and we hope that you all would be enticed to come in and join us. And again, this is just a new project that we're trying out, and we hope that you all are enjoying it. A second selection that I have from my new book is called Men of the Holy Order. And this is a very interesting story that's very relevant and unfortunate over the years. And it's between a story between a young girl who grows up and the church and what she believes and what she hopes to find, and then to find out that it didn't go exactly as she had planned. But forgiveness is very important for all of us to have that, and to find peace and with things that don't necessarily always make sense. And we really have to find ways to move on from things that tend to change our lives. So I hope you enjoy it. It's called Men of the Holy Order. I am a parable. I've kissed the serpents. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. They sit in righteous indignation, a paradox soaked in iniquity, the gross injustice to your name. We walked in as lambs to the slaughter, awaiting the endowment of biblical doctrine, uplifting hymns and praise dances. We believed in safe havens, hoping to be escorted into nirvana by the shepherds to the flock, but the wolf charades around in a red cape. The ritual ingeminated says, break bread and eat, this is my body. Drink of this wine, this is my blood. All propaganda to the Holy Communion, lacking verisimilitude. Flames dance on candle wicks as my name became defined by ambiguity. My back stiffened and was savagely rode like golden unicorns taking flight to blue skies, turning me into a telltale story, wishing myself an urban legend thrown into obscurity, an innocent girl in vestibules. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Beyond the sweet aromatic of incense and silent picture shows, I knelt before a self-prophesized version of your representative, eliciting mediocre talents I ascertain and fulfilling gratifications behind the reridues. He was the incubus of my nightly dreams. Let the atrophy of my body sit upon their tongues. I am a dead man walking. Impurities seep through my pores. Sacrilegious practices turned confessional booths into brothels. They hid their clerical collars beneath varnished pews. Men of the Holy Order, we were maniacal. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I came in with eyes of a child, and now I am what I detest. Fire-breathing dragons just don't live in empty castles exclusively directed in fairy tales. The wizardry of magic is waved and stamped by the seemingly approval of the Vatican. I was always told children should be seen and not heard. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Let the onslaught of stones be cast down. Don't save me. I'm an extraterrestrial version of myself. the cyborg of humans, the infamy of loud noises in a busy city that no one hears. I'm not even a headline, just a speck of a dust molecule among millions. No one can see me, but I exist. I have my own crown of thorns piercing into my temples. Oh, let me go back. Let me go back to slithering through abandoned tenements, being a strumpet, walking the docks, soliciting my services on my back beneath bridges. But Jesus touched the water, and the ripples produced the reflection of truth. Oh, I clapped my hands with morning glory. He heard my cry, and a paragon of angels surrounded me, telling me secrets of salvation. They changed my name. And when mortality ends, I will be covered in white light as my garment, released from my servitude and cut from my crucifix. Oh, I will have come through the valley to walk on mountain tops with lilies at my feet. Dilated pupils will have new sight, brows unfurled, covered in the blood of lambs, and I will fear no evil. Oh, forgive them, Father. Forgive them, for they have sinned.
Wow. Wow, Polly. I've been listening in the other room. Powerful stuff. Very, very powerful. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your writing style.
Sure.
How do you start writing your poems?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I love that question. For me, it can start with a title. Every now and then it can start with a title. But for me, it always starts with one line. One line. I tend to build around it. I have a tendency also, again, to sit in self-introspection and examine my own behavior as well as other people's behaviors, the hypocrisy of situations, the things sometimes that we are taught to believe in, and it goes awry. And we try to find ways to handle that. And it's very hard. You know, we can become distorted in our own minds, and sometimes we don't know how to handle situations. And so I tend to write about a little bit of everything. I love all the subjects and all the different things that people ask me to write about, or you know, different ideas that pop into my head. It's very busy inside my mind, I have to say. I walk around with a lot of ideas and a lot of people and a lot of different things that come to me.
Yeah. And so when you write your poems, what are the feelings that you want the listener or the reader to come away with? What emotions are you trying to convey?
You know, one of the things that I do, and I do say that I really want my readers to always understand, is that whether I live that situation or not, she gets it. She can speak from the voice of my hurt, from my joys, from sorrows, from things that really mess with our minds sometimes and keeps us up late at night.
So would you say some of these are autobiographical, or these?
Yes, some of them
Wow.
I can draw from my own, like I said, from my own life experiences, from my own, as I sit in my own self-introspections, I tend to question, am I the human being that hopes to be fuller and kind in the universe?
Mm-hmm.
I do hope to be able to always be a better person.
Okay.
Yeah, and I you know, I work on that a lot. But again, and some of them are not. Some of them, for instance, I sometimes write from the voice of a child, or
other people that have said to me, well, this has happened to me.
Mm.
And I try to give it some voice, or the unfairnesses in the world, the things that don't seem to be, you know.
So is that the reason for the title, Mirror Images?
Yes.
Okay.
To always reflect back at oneself, or to look at the images of the things that's happening around us, to look inside the souls of people who have this higher being, and not necessarily that way, the things that break us apart, you know. And that's why a lot of times too, you'll see my images are very dark, and very, you know, people, all of us struggle with different ways of living. And
I know we've had this conversation before. Where is the light, Pauline? The
yes,
light.
where's the light? I know. I'm not the dance through the tulips kind of writer. It's not really so much my style. You know.
Well, you mentioned that you had some other pieces from a new title called Dysfunction.
A play on words in the familiar.
Okay.
Yes, and that's what Men of the Holy Order and Living Her Life on Broken Wings. Those will be the selections that come from that new book.
Okay. And so you're here in Augusta, Georgia. This is your second time.
Yes, yes, I'm here. What's in the car? Again, yes.
And so, can you tell us? Well, you're scheduled to do 2 events in the next couple of days, besides this Google Earth, or this Google Hangout program.
Right.
And so you want to tell us a little bit about the programs that you'll be doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing it. We're doing an open mic at a Catchphrase Cafe on April 24th, 2015, this Friday at 7 p.m., featuring Lady V. Yay, Lady V. Jason Frisbee and PJ Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so what will you be sharing? Do you know what you'll share?
I'm not totally sure. I'm still making some decisions on that. But again, I will be reading some different selections from my book, Mirror Images,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how things from Dysfunction, a play of words in the familiar, see how those things go over. I'm going to try a piece probably called Eulogy,
Okay.
that is written from the voice of a dead 2-year-old.
Wow.
Yes, her mother killed her.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah,
so that's almost
be
like ripping things right out of the headline.
Yes, that's taking things from the headlines, things that we hear on the news, things that we tend to sometimes don't necessarily want to hear.
Yeah. So it's heavy duty stuff.
It's heavy duty.
It's heavy to start the morning off. But we may have you come back a little bit later, because we're, as you said so eloquently stated earlier today, that we are testing out the system.
Yes, I am. I'm the guinea pig for the.
And actually, I wanted to tell you that it actually went really well, because I was able to see it in the other room. I was able to hear you very, very clearly. And so all of you who are out there afraid to give us a try, you can now click on. We're gonna take a break for a minute, but I'm gonna come back, and I will start off the next segment with an explanation of Earth Day and why we titled it Earth Day for Poets. And we look forward to seeing you then.
Yes.
Thank you, Pauline.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.